Thank you, Ron. Please visit our booth today because our juice is definitely better than the fruit you're not eating this morning. So on that, it's my pleasure to introduce your keynote speaker this morning. Joe Jackman defines himself as a reinventionist. He's a believer in and a practitioner of rapid business transformation. As the founder and CEO of Jackman of Reinvents, he's pioneered an efficient way to get mature businesses back to growth and relevance. He's here to give us his view of the future of retail. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Joe Jackman.
Thank you, Costas. I appreciate it. What a treat to be here with you today. Thank you so much. I've long admired CFIG for a number of reasons. I grew up in a retail family, and while it was not a food business, I went on to consult and cut my teeth with the food business a company here in Canada. You might have heard of Loblaw for about 20 years, and did a crazy thing, and one day became an executive there for about 2.5 years. So, but I would say the heart and soul of food retail is in this room, and I don't think it is as much a scale. Big players have advantages. I don't see it as unassailable advantage, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. So, change is the topic, and we'll give a little nod to a lot of it coming our way. And the question on everyone's minds is, as we saw some of the data that was shared a moment ago, changing consumer appetites and expectations and so on, and all this inbound need to continue to evolve your businesses. How do you think about it? What do you do about it? How do you make good choices? I'm going to share perspective from having worked with about 40 companies over the last 12 or so years on doing exactly that. How do you cope with what's going on? So I'll get the shameless promotion of my brand off the screen and we'll get into it. Change, let's talk just a little bit about how I think about change as a self-professed reinventionist, a career I made up after having witnessed what was going on in the world, and that businesses that are faced with evolution really do need to change faster today than it ever before. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Then I'm going to give you a perspective on the landscape that you operate within today. And then finally, what to do about it. As a guy I worked with for a lot of years, a mentor of mine, he was the president of Loblaw Companies for a lot of years, John Lederer, you might know that name. He would say sometimes when the going was tough, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. So I'm going to share 3 things that I think might be useful to you on your journey. So let's jump into it. So change. The only thing we can be certain is that this is coming faster than ever before. Look at business model life cycle compression. Look at brand life cycle compression. Who ever heard of Netflix or Casper or you pick Wayfair before they were everywhere? Uber. Faster up, and if you're sitting up at that peak, just know that faster down is the reality, because if you're not the one becoming the next most powerful and better version of you, then someone else will. And unfortunately, that's a hard reality, but I think it's an exciting time as well in retail. So let's change the way we think about change itself. Let's stop thinking of it as a bad thing being done to us, and think of it as something that we can get really good at. And in fact, there's a lot of upside when we do. So we'll get into that. Let me start the repositioning of change by just saying the obvious. Yes, change is hard. A lot of uncertainty comes with it, right? Well, there was a US general in the military in America who said something I really admired. Change is hard. Yes, of course. Irrelevance is one heck of a lot harder. So let's get over sort of the aversion to change and just accept that, look, it's just what we're going to do. And it's how we're going to thrive going forward. This is a quote from some writing I've been doing. There's a book, and I'll tell you about that later. But there is a serial killer on the loose. It's kind of an odd thought that the place for you to be most safe is not in the present, it is in the future, because there is a force that's coming for every slow-moving business on the planet. And we just have to now pick up the pace to match it. I don't know if you saw this about 2 days ago. This won a global photography award. And I just thought, is there a better picture to say, I'm surprised, change caught me. My competitor, is here and on me, and I can't get away. We don't want this picture, right? So that would be probably the most visually compelling argument for, let's get on with it. Let's just do what we need to do to keep pace with customers, with competitors, and so on. So what's the antidote to all this change? Simply, it's to reinvent, to become and continue to become the most powerful and relevant version of you. And that's what I've spent the last decade and more trying to perfect a way to think about that, and I'll show you a little bit of that. So change is not risk. Change is opportunity. And when you get it right for customers in your businesses, when that fresh program lands that you didn't offer before. I was admiring, there's some folks here from Longo's, including Anthony. The Pronto execution is really impressive. That's just a response, and a very thoughtful one, to what's going on. Change is not risk. Yes, I could lose it to restaurants. Change is opportunity. Why don't I do something that makes it quick and easy as Uber Eats is? For the office workers in, Bloor and Young. So let's just change the way we think about change. What is changing in the landscape? I look at a lot of data sets in my work, and there's data that says 2019 numbers are not quite here, but hey, not robust growth in grocery sales, but not bad. There's other categories that are in decline. You don't want to be in the office supplies business right now. You want to be in the food business. It's better here. And then look at where we are with who's winning and who's losing. Now, losing is a subjective term. It looks like scale is winning. Large stores, one-stop shop, those that offer value. And this is the point where I would remind, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. So if you're in this middle band, somewhere around flat, the question becomes, well, how do we get out of that pack? How do we get to the growth side of this equation? And how do we understand fully, and you saw some data earlier, that the customer appetite for how they consume food is changing fairly dramatically? DoorDash, Uber Eats, where did these things come from? How are we responding? HMR, back when I was in the industry, that's what it was called. Today, it's something else. So there's a lot of, good news in the general, maybe not so good news in the specifics, depending on who you are in the channel. But here is the brilliant news. As I said, office supplies, in other categories where it's not so good, you've got this unbelievable shift in the way consumers, people, think about food. There isn't a more engaging category of goods today than this. And the wonderful thing is, go back 20 years ago, you might be able to catch a television program on food. Today, there's entire networks devoted to it. Chefs are rock stars today. Could I have told you who the bass player was in a band back in the day? Maybe, because they were sort of celebrities. Could I tell you who is behind any of the major restaurant chains? Of course I could. It's just part of the vernacular today. So it's a good time. Have a look at some of these just little nuggets of data. One, half of Canadians today go onto YouTube to watch food programming. Maybe it's to learn a recipe. Maybe it's to get excited about a chef that they're a fan of, whatever. Have a look at hashtag food, 360 million impressions. This is a category that is unbelievably emotionally rich and connected to what people care about today. I was in a little cafe in Chicago, and it was kind of funny because in the middle of being served a coffee, a photo shoot broke out at about 5 different tables. People were bringing product to be consumed, and out comes the iPhones, and people are taking shots. And I'm actually standing in line, and this one gentleman says, "Excuse me, could you just step out of the frame while I photograph my croissant with the latte with the little diagram?" And I'm thinking, wow, what a crazy time to be in food. This is amazing. This is how many Instagram followers our Prime Minister has. this is how many followers a famous chef has. You know, maybe if he had endorsed him, we might have seen a majority again today. But it's just an indicator of what's happening. What else is happening that matters to your world? Well, these two forces have crashed into one another. Of course, consumerism, which has been going on for centuries, and consumers are being trained by retailers particularly to get better at understanding value, finding what's new, comparing, you know, not only pricing, but also propositions. And then along comes technology in our hands that gives us the processing power to do that super efficiently. And when we think about that, it's changed everything. Why are we talking about BOPUS? Because of this. Why are we talking about online and toilet paper and paper towels being delivered home? It's because of these two forces coming together. And the result of that is the birth of what data has revealed and we've called the ultimate consumer. And I would recommend to any business that you pay attention to the expectations of customers. I think of my daughter when I play this out, who's in her young 20s. But this is what the ultimate consumer is today. This is what she or he expects, armed with technology, now arrayed with new options as never before. What does she or he expect? Ultimate convenience. If it was 7 clicks, I want it to be 3. I want it to be 1 click. I don't want any clicks. I want things to be delivered next week, this week, 2 day, 1 day. I'm standing in an Austin parking lot and I'm looking at a Whole Foods store now owned by Amazon, and a big banner's being unfurled and it says, now 2-hour delivery. You know, what's next? You're gonna come to my home, fill my fridge and make me dinner. You know, it's the immediacy, the ease with which we expect. And if you're offside of ease in anything you do, like, I don't want to line up, or where is it again? No, I'm out of here. Because in a world of options, if you don't pass a convenience test, you get deselected. What else? Ultimate value, and now the ability to compare, not just price, but origin, authenticity, the backstory. Value is the equation of what do I get from my money, not just what I pay for it. Ultimate personalization, which was mentioned earlier, that idea of please customize for me, know me. You know, loyalty is rooted in this idea of being able to get algorithms to, you know, attach meaning to something that is just for me as a buyer, but then even into product personalization. Ultimate immediacy. I love the expression a young 20-something says, listen, it's really simple. I want what I want and I want it now. So that instant gratification is not just a young person's behavior anymore, it's everyone's. You know, Uber did more to change financial services than anything the banks themselves did. Because if I'm standing, you know, I was in New York City the other day and I jump out of an Uber and the guy pounds on the window and says, buddy, you haven't paid me. Ah, you're a cab, you're a taxi, sorry. I'm in the habit of Uber. And the guy looks really frowny face, but I'm thinking, my expectation of ease and immediacy has been completely defined by Uber. And I apply that. I don't just keep it in that category. I go into a food store and I say, why can't it be this easy? I go into a bank, why can't it be this easy, this immediate, right? So these are the expectations which can seem abstract, but it's real, and companies are being deselected and being replaced by disruptors who are respecting these wishes, these expectations. So the last one I think is most interesting to this audience in particular, and that's ultimate experience. If I can't win on scale, if I can't win on price, what do I win on? I loved what was said from the stage a moment ago about not really thinking about discount. If you want to be the low-cost provider, the low-cost operator, and the lowest price in the market, go for it, fill your boots. But I think other scale players are going to do that. So what are you left with? You're left with selling things other people don't sell, and you're left with delivering experience. But here's the good news about experience. You've heard about the experience economy, and we'll get into what that actually is. It's growing 3 times the rate of the sale of goods. Globally, the sale of consumer goods is about plus 5%. 3x the sale of entertainment, adventures, travel, out-of-home restaurant dining, sports events, even closed-circuit events that you would consume online in your home, gaming. This is an economy that is booming. What we're noticing is that retailers that are developing themselves as experiences are actually surfing this curve. That's a really important piece. Interestingly, 58% of Canadians say, I would rather have an experience, maybe I take a picture somewhere with my family and post it on my Instagram account, than spend on another handbag or maybe more items to put in the pantry. Right? This is the dynamic that's happening today, and we need to pay attention to it. As a result, what's happening to physical stores is that they are polarizing, either super convenient or experiential. Those two things are not actually mutually exclusive. I would argue the Pronto is actually experiential while being super convenient, the example I mentioned. But this is what's happening. Customers are saying, I want to come here for other reasons, and I want to learn something, or I want to connect with my community. That's the experiential side, enabled by what's above, which is I can just simply get the stuff I need taken care of and open up the aperture for, no, this is a visit I want to make. This isn't a trip to go get a bunch of stuff I'm going to put in my car and take home. I want to come and do something here. I want to learn. I'll show you some examples of that. So pay attention to the ultimate consumer. Another thing that's in the landscape that we're noticing, and this is fairly new, is, has anyone noticed that people are starting to buy on values versus value? That they're starting to say, I really need to know what this is about, where it's made, is there child labor involved? Is it coming from places that I may not be aligned with in terms of my values? There's a big shift going on, and for the first time, we put it into a framework. And we said, it's interesting that the future is not only about delivering experiential retail, it's about being on side with the values economy. And we think about it this way. If you look at transactional benefit, emotional benefit, you had what I want, it was fairly easy, I felt good about the experience, great, baseline. What's above it is mattering more today, and that's what I call the values economy. And let me unpack that for you. So, you've heard of the Maslow's hierarchy of human need. This is my version of human commercial engagement, and it's built on this idea of values economy. At the bottom is, I have what you need, and I'm going to meet your transactional expectation, and you're going to feel good about it. My store is nice. It's a great experience. My online is simple, and it's rewarding, and there's an algorithm working I can personalize for you. Great. That's table stakes. What's above is shared pursuit. I want to be doing things with others who are like me that are pursuing similar things. And then above that is shared belief. I want to be doing it with people that care about the same things that I do. And then at the very top is aligned purpose. There is no difference between what I believe and what I am and the brands that I choose. Now, this might sound a little abstract, so I'm going to show you a picture. Oh, I didn't realize I had that to click through. We started to see some notes on this. Dove is a very efficacious soap. It's very popular. It tapped into something really important around women and body image. And guess what happened? It's a wonderful case study. You see the opposite, brands that appear to be tone deaf to similar kinds of concerns and issues. And then you start to see brands like Chick-fil-A, who opened in London, England recently, and closed about 90 days later because of the outcry about their beliefs and their attitudes as a leadership team, as an ownership group. And then there's sad things going on in the world. You're aware of them. What the heck does that have to do with retail and food retail and independent grocers? A lot. Because did you notice that as gun violence increases in America, retailers are starting to say, I don't have a choice anymore. I have to take a position. This was not an easy position for this retailer to take. simply because they sell a lot of guns. That's an overlap with a big cohort of their customer base. And yet, they said, either morally we don't have a choice, or commercially we don't have a choice. Whichever it is, it's a stepping stone towards brands that have been there for a while, who've said, look, we're actually taking a position on something. In this case, the natural world and climate change and so on. Have you noticed this young woman who starts to say, look, we have to do something about it in a way that Al Gore couldn't, and retailers are responding. I think MEC here in Canada closed its doors the day of the march. So my point is that the future isn't simply, can we be better at what we do? Can we create experience that brings customers in for other reasons to buy products that they can get otherwise, anywhere else, pretty much? What does the future look like? The future looks like this. And I picked this example because it's probably the easiest one to relate to. Transactional benefit. I've got a great app. I can order running shoes, whatever I need, easy, done. They're going to be delivered to me. Fantastic, efficient e-com. Above that, they've got wonderful stores, which provide emotional experience, but they also do customization. So that's a very emotionally fulfilling experience that they're delivering. Great, so far climbing that ladder. What else did they do? Shared pursuit. I like to run. I like to hang out with people who also like to run. We all wear, Fitbits or Nike performance meters, and we're doing this together. We meet at the stores or we meet somewhere else, and we're participating together. That is unbelievable. What is the equivalent in your world? I want you to think about, as I build this stack, what is that? Is that cooking classes? Is that people coming in to learn about new foods? Is that everyone wants to know about CBD today? I do a lot of work in the US. It is just everywhere. What do we do? How do we think about this? Is it beneficial? Do I cook with it? What is it? So there's shared pursuits opportunities for retailers and brands. And then here's one, shared belief. Know who this guy is? Colin Kaepernick. There isn't a running shoe in the ad. There's no price item. There's only his face. And what it is a shared belief that individuals have the right to state what they care about and what they believe in. And here's a brand that says, we believe in that too. Guess what happened? Running shoes started to be burned the next day. Sales online started to go down. The stock got hit. But guess what happened within 72 hours of that? Back up. Even higher, because this is a brand that is doing all these things, but has a shared belief system that is resonating with their customers. What's yours? And then finally, at the top is this idea of the brand is me, and I am the brand. There is no distinction between us. That is what's coming. And to think about how you might be on side with some of these things that are genuine and authentic. The data proves it out. It says, half of Canadians are already buying this way. They're already making these decisions on this basis. This is from Edelman, a study done recently. Nearly 2/3, they're going to buy or boycott a brand that is offside with what they think is right. So Whole Foods is somewhere on this ladder, maybe not as high as they might like to think they are. Let's look in your category, what's on the shelf. Flow Water, full disclosure, I'm on the board of this company. They are 100% aligned from bottom to top in terms of what their customers that they're focused on and what they know about them want and believe and how they define themselves. This is a great quote or a great stat. We must be able to trust brands to do what's right. And you, as curators of what's on your shelf, it's not only about do what's right in your four walls and online, it's do what's right in what you sell. That's coming more and more and more. And by the way, I'm not a tree-hugging guy who's advocating, climate change or whatever. I'm just saying this is what the data is telling us, and it's going to count more into the future. So, lots of change going on, some good news, some bad news. What do we do about it? I'm going to leave you 3 thoughts. 3 things that you can do to thrive. The first is be a brand. You may already be a brand Sounds like one of those funny cartoons. You may already be a wiener. Deliver an experience, which I talked about, and I'll show you some pictures of what that means, and become a reinventionist. The last one you'll go, yeah, Joe, that's kind of self-serving. You want us to be like you. I'll explain why that's important. It's a way to move from being comfortable with change to being good at it to becoming a pro athlete level good at it. So be a brand. How many people here today in your businesses would say they are a brand? You've created a brand. That's actually a pretty small percentage of the population. Either that or you're shy. It's a Canadian audience. The Americans, they'd be like, yes, we're a brand, of course. We've defined branding. Most of my business is in America, so I hope there's not too many Americans that are offended here. What do I mean by that? I mean by become the most powerful and relevant version of you, however you define that. And that just simply means play your own game. Like there is a lot, and particularly in small business, there's a lot of feeling that I need to be as good as this, like them. I need to be doing these things as well, like those folks. I need to be doing a bit of this, like those folks. That is the absolute wrong path to success. Pick a lane. Be the very, very best you can be in that lane. There's a guy I liked when I was younger. I never thought of him as a brand guru. I just thought he was a pretty cool musician. But he said something that really resonated with me as a strategist. And it's not enough to be the best of the best. Whatever you choose to do, you want to be seen as being the only one who does what you do. That is becoming a category of one. That is not being interchangeable with your rivals. If anybody can shop you and choose the products on your shelves or the services that you provide in your four walls and can say, not today. I think I'll do exactly what I was going to do with you. I'm going to go do it here with someone else. That is not smart business. Interchangeability is not a successful strategy. You know that. So it really just requires you to think differently about what it is you do every day and why it is you do it. Around authenticity. Who are you? What do you care about? What do your customers that you're focused on care also about? How might you start to mirror who the ones you chose to serve the most? How do you reflect that? How do you embody that? If it's true, I put this word up because don't stretch into things that aren't true. Play the game. Become the most powerful version of you. And you're familiar with this. Anybody who's been to marketing, classes or, thought about brands has tripped over this word. But somewhere in the usefulness of it, it got lost what the meaning is. Yes, differentiation. Of course, we need to be differentiated. Guess what that actually says? It says be different. If everything is equal, you are interchangeable. So what isn't equal? What did you choose to amplify? I'll give you an example in a data set. I looked at data sets when we worked in the auto rental business. Every player played exactly the same game according to data. Every point of measurement around a circle, Hertz and Avis and National and all the other ones, Budget. The difference, guess what the difference was? With a few degrees here and there, the difference was one's red, one's yellow, the other one's green. That is not successful strategy. You need to stand out and be different. So how do you do that? This is the framework that we created and we use. It's simply three things leading you to a definition of what your brand is in the center. Which customers are you focused on and why? You can't be all things to all people. You know that in your life. If you meet somebody new and they try to be everything to you, you're going to say, I'm not buying it. Who are you for? What do they care about? What can you do for them that is uniquely going to resonate? And the wonderful thing that when you choose customers to focus on, you get a twofer and a threefer. You get a halo. I stand for something to someone, and therefore I'm visible. I'm known for something. I become famous for something that then becomes resonant with other people. I can't do it the other way. All things, all people, I stand for nothing to no one. So it's just a simple way to think about customer focus. Who are you really for? Maybe a second line is, these folks are important to me as well, but this group is the most important, and then everybody else, who I don't ignore, but I'm not designing my proposition and my customer experience for them. It's the ones at the top that matter the most. Oops. Let me just go back to that. You've decided which customers to focus on. How do you win with them? Are you about ease? Are you about a wonderful food experience? Are you about knowledge and learning? What is your brand about? What is the competitive dimension you're to win on? Everything else will become a table stake. And lastly, how do you live as a brand? How do you take those choices and who you are authentically and how that's going to show up as different and amplify it so that it becomes behavior across your entire organization? Today, the battlefront, I think, is not so much with the consumer as with the employee. Because when you get these questions answered, it'll take you to a place, this is what we're all about. This is what our brand is all about. That will resonate with the customers you're focused on and earn you more opportunity to sell to them. Be more, mean more, sell to them. Sell more. It's the employee audience that you have to reach their heads and their hearts so that they say, I'm loyal to this company because it believes in things that matter to me too. That's a really important part of branding. So when you have those choices and you're clear on who you are as a brand, your job becomes pretty simple. I just need to take those choices and amplify them in every touch point of customer experience. Alignment equals power. If I'm on a call center and my experience is one thing, I walk into a store, it's another, the advertising campaign says something else, I go online and the policies don't support any of those experiences, that is misalignment. That's leaving money on the table. That's actually taking $100 bills and throwing them out the window. Getting this aligned to, I know who I am, I know who I'm for, I know how I win with my customers that I'm focused on, and I take those choices and I make sure everything that I do, that I sell, the ways I show up, the way I train my employees, the way I incent my employees is all 100% aligned. That's how you get power out of smaller businesses to fight big. This is actually the roadmap to be David against Goliath, in my view. So, if you don't believe me, maybe you don't, maybe you're skeptical, I'd say just think about the money. If I can stand for something, I can be noticed in a world where maybe I can't spend the kind of marketing that others can. I can be attractive. Hey, they do something different that I like and I'm interested in. I think they're the only ones who do that. So I'm going to notice them. I'm going to visit. I'm going to click to. I'm going to walk to, drive to, what have you. And the engagement that comes with it is going to be true to your brand. It just feels different here. It feels like they're about something that means something to me. They're for me. Leads to traffic and traffic and engagement is money. Here's a good stat. This was a study done a couple years back, and it said that brands and companies with brands that have a defined purpose outperform their peers on the stock market. There's a lot of cases. This is one example of many, many stats. So you're kind of getting the gist that if you pick a lane and stand for something as a brand. Okay, let's get into experience. So first, be a brand. Second, deliver an experience. I've gone to a lot of conferences. Remember back in the day, you go to an industry conference and people were starting to talk about retail experience. And I remember a CEO that I happened to bump into say, so I get this experience thing is important. What the heck is it? What does it actually mean? What should we do to become an experience? And so we did a little bit of work and we used data and we created a continuum of experience. Fulfillment, I want that, I get it delivered to me, and now I own it. It's in my pantry. Great, it's an experience, fairly narrow bandwidth experience, but it is one. Fulfillment, all the way across to what I'll describe as co-create. In a second, I'll give you some examples. So there's a continuum. I want you to think about in your business as I show you examples. Where are you in this continuum? You don't have to be everywhere. You can pick a lane and say, I want to be right there. That's where it makes sense for me and my customers. But this is the dynamic today, particularly if you can't compete on price, if you're not the lowest price player. Fulfillment, Casper. I just need a bed, make it easy. I open up the box, bang, I got a mattress, done, beautiful. Amazon Go, read the poster in the window, just walk out. I think it's a very clever play. I was in one the other day in Chicago, and it wasn't particularly busy, but it was really fascinating as an experiment. But I think there will be more of this coming. Walletless shopping. Instacart, it's partners with some grocers today. It's just about fulfillment. I think coming in 2020, Longo's organization's been in it with Grocery Gateway for a while. Sobeys is jumping in with delivery. Let's go to something a little more dimensional, a little more interesting. Discovery, one of the best players on the planet in retail at Discovery is, come on in, something new, try it. We'll explain it to you. We'll give you some advice. You can do some digital things, color matching to who you are and your complexion and so on. Wonderful player. Maybe a little closer to home, downtown Toronto. This is a very discovery-oriented food box. You don't have to be big. You don't have to have a ton of money to be offering something that customers would say, I know what's in the box. Do I need to go to the box to buy it? Nope, I can get it online. I don't know what's in the box. They have things there always that are new and interesting. I can taste them and try them. That's a reason to visit. That's traffic. Engagement equals money. Glossier. I was in Los Angeles, an area of LA called Melrose, and I took an Uber to go see a Glossier store, a pop-up. Glossier, if you don't know it, is a beauty brand. It was a blog recommending other beauty products, and it had such a following that it started to create its own line of beauty products. It was easy to spot where the Glossier pop-up was because it was the store in a big chain of about 20 that had a lineup around the block. And it was around this immersive experience. Guess what you can't do in the Glossier pop-up store? You can't buy any product. You can't walk out the door with it. It wasn't about that. It was just about an experience, an immersion, a lifestyle that they wanted to bring to life for their customers. And sure, there was products you could sample and try, but something very different. That's what immersion looks like. In the food, this is goodness me, these are classes. Come and learn about organic. Come and learn about this or that. I don't know if anybody from Goodness Me is here. Same idea. The difference between immersion, I can come and get a class and learn. There's a huge appetite for learning today. Customers want more information. And young people are actually driving that, but not exclusively. Here's Apple that started on that. Come and take a class on how to use our hardware. And then they started to say, why don't we open up those facilities and build more of them and make them bigger and offer them to the community. So now it's about like-minded individuals with shared pursuits and maybe beliefs coming to these brands and experiencing not just what the brand has to offer, but what my community has to offer and how I might learn and grow with them. Could you do that? Some of these things? Here's, the Nike Running Club I mentioned. It's an unbelievable connection mechanism, connecting humans with other humans. And guess who benefits? Hopefully those humans, but also the business. Because if you can't generate a trip, if you're not growing online in traffic, if you're not growing physically in traffic, you don't have a future. So how are you generating traffic? And then what are you doing with it when you get it? And will that lead to driving more sales? And then this, what I think is today the holy grail, I'm sure there'll be like another end to this as we continue into the experience economy, but it's co-create, which is to say to a customer, tell you what, like we're buyers, we're merchandisers, we buy things we think you'll like, we work with vendors and people are bringing new, That's part of our job. But how about we have a relationship where you help me decide what's on my shelves? That's been going on in an informal way in good retail for a long time. But what happens when it gets formalized? This is Lego that says, hey, Legoites, if you want to create things that we didn't think of, and you want to submit those worlds, those creative imaginary worlds using our blocks, we'll pick the best ones globally every year and sell them in boxes and celebrate you as the creator. That is co-creation, right there. Target is a really interesting app. It is the ability for a select group of customers, we think it's around 10,000 customers that are using this app. And if Target says, we've got the new Mother's Day lineup, including a bunch of private brands, here's some new sweatshirts for mom, and there's 5 or 6 designs, can you tell us which one you like? They're not on sale yet. This is in February or January. Tell us which ones you like. Do you have any ideas that you'd like to contribute? Maybe a slogan, maybe an image. Would you like to see this or that? That's an unbelievable act of a very giant retailer doing something co-collaboratively with their consumer. And this one is a little different, but it's an act of co-creation. This is Carrefour, where their app will allow the personal shoppers in the store to be connected to the customers that are buying online for delivery to actually choose which watermelon they want. It's as simple as, hey, I'm Phil, I'm fulfilling your order, I'm looking at these ones, but there's a larger one. Which one do you like? Click, I like that one. Perfect. Co-creating my basket using technology. It's an amazing world that we're entering in, but it doesn't always have to be big scale and big money to do these kinds of things. It's just the simple act of, can my customers actually become co-merchants with me, or actually even product developers? Interesting. In our own work, we took 15% of the selling space of a retailer in the US called Joann's Store, selling fabric and craft, completely interchangeable with their rivals, and started to program it for these kinds of things, experiential things. This is called a creator studio. That 15% investment of space, which the merchants freaked out when they said, you're going to take footage out of my store? You're crazy, yielded a plus 30% lift in sales. Another one, University Avenue, if you haven't had a chance to get down to the new Staples store, we worked with the Staples leadership team. We did an even crazier thing. I was saying this to Anthony earlier, we took 1/3 of the selling space of that store, a fairly tight store and a high producer, top quartile performer piece of real estate, and we gave it over to the customer. And we said, there's a place based on a strategy and what we knew about customers for you to come and learn. You'll hear from your peers on their journey into entrepreneurship, or you hear from experts on tax or experts on how to make a compelling sales pitch, and it's right here in our facility. And we gave some of the footage to, why don't you come and work here in our space? We'll rent you a desk, we'll rent you office, facilities and so on. 35%, guess what happened to sales? Did they go down? I don't need to have a store full of stuff anymore. I don't need to go to that store unless you give me a reason to go. It went up 1/3 from prior. And people stayed longer, and they engaged in different ways, and they bought more, and they came back more frequently. So it's a picture of how you can start to make choices as a brand, deliver an experience that's not interchangeable, and generate notoriety, maybe even fame, lots of visits, lots of engagement of a different order, and more sales as a result. If you went to Lincoln Park, we were strategic creative advisors on this. Lululemon has done an amazing job. Does this look like a Lululemon store? Where's the racks of stuff? Well, it's a floor above the racks of stuff, and this is where you come to meditate. Whether you do product information, either digitally or just simply on shelf, customers want to know, what is it about this product that makes it special? Why do you sell it? Or, that might be a sign on a shelf, or it might be something more sophisticated. Whether you are pushing forward in the experience of, how do I deliver fresh? If you're selling beautiful, fresh basil in the season in Ontario when beautiful, fresh basil is available, and it's in a clamshell plastic, offside. This is Albert Heijn in the Netherlands. Come and clip your own. This is where the world's going. We need to rethink some of the standard things on the basis of what the customer is. This is H Mart. This is in Austin, Texas. That is not a store you're looking at, but it is. What's just out of frame is a wonderful grocery store oriented towards Asian customers, particularly the Korean community. And here is a stage, and I can grab a bite, eat on long communal tables, and watch local acts, many of which are relevant to my community and my culture. Wonderful. It's a killer. It's an absolute killer value proposition. So, lastly, no matter what you're thinking about doing, I would just encourage you to do it. The world's not waiting, and I'll talk about that, but it's to become a reinventionist, become a pro athlete of change. And I know that sounds abstract, but it simply means get really, really good at the inbound opportunities and translating them into tests. Let's put that to a test. Let's not make an all-time bet on our business. Let's just see what we can learn. And I started a long time ago, about 7 or 8 years ago, writing down these principles. There was 10, and then there was 8, and I got it down to 5. And what they are is behaviors, a way of thinking and behaving that will enable you to be better practitioners of change, to be comfortable with it, to be good at it. And I'd like to share those with you. In January, shameless plug, there's a book coming out, The Reinventionist Mindset. But here are the 5 principles of the Reinventionist Mindset. The first is seek insight everywhere. It's really simple. Just look at what's happening around you. Look at what your kids are looking at and what they care about. Look at what others are doing, not in your category alone, but outside your category. If there's something you think is cool, has anybody applied it to your category? Why not you? Because someone will if it's really cool, if it's good. So just open the aperture, embrace uncertainty. The only thing that is certain is change is here and it's not going to stop, so let's just keep moving. Let's be fearless and courageous as we move it forward. Don't wait. The future isn't some far off place like when I was a kid to infinity and beyond. Future arrives daily. So if you have an idea, put it into motion, learn it. Don't make big bets, plant seeds, and the future will actually be something you can shape and control. Obsess the outcome. Decide, I'm here for all sorts of reasons. I want to be here. It's a BHAG maybe. It's an aspirational goal. I want to be the brand. You know, this brand said we want to be the fastest selling wellness water in North America 5 years ago. Guess what? It is. It's selling faster in terms of growth, off a small base, mind you, but in terms of growth, than Evian or Fiji. You know, set a BHAG and then just be relentless in your pursuit of it. And then make momentum together. This is one thing I would be critical of retail. Having worked in it and having advised it for a long time, we're too siloed. We need to stop being so vertical and start being more horizontal and play as a team. And I think lots of good companies are doing that. More need to do that. The more you can get a community of people clear on where you're going, excited about the future, knowing that this is real purposeful stuff and it's us that are going to do it, the more you can generate the will to overcome any barrier in your way. That's the most important of the 5 principles. So, change, I'll just leave it here. You know, lots to think about, lots to do. But this way of behaving and thinking, I think, will give you an advantage, give you an edge. So, if you Googled the word change, you'd get 16 billion citations. If you distilled it down to 16 words, it would be this. Change is hard yet essential, and everything tends to work out if you get good at it. So I encourage you to become a reinventionist, to get good at it. The surest way, you know, to stay true to you, true to who you are. This is the interesting thing. People think of change as, oh, I guess I got to be something else. Nope, you just have to be the better version of what you are, and keep doing it and keep doing it. That's the way that you actively shape the future rather than have it done to you. And I love this quote. There's many, but what you can do or dream, you can begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. That's from Goethe. So I think we're past time. We may not have a lot of time for questions, but I'm open to any questions you might have. Any questions? Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.